from the CBS Bay Area studios, this is KPIX 5 News.
Welcome back. It's just about 6:30. Good morning. I'm Julie Watts.
And I'm Devin Fehely. Investigators are looking into an officer-involved shooting in San Francisco. It happened just after midnight on Grant Avenue. A suspect was shot while being pursued by two police officers on foot. Police say that a firearm was recovered from the scene. The suspect is in the hospital with injuries described as life-threatening. No officers were injured. There's no word yet on what prompted the officer's initial contact with the suspect. Warriors are once again the best in the world of basketball. They finished a 4-game sweep in the NBA Finals last night, beating the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road 108-85. Now, victory parade plans were announced promptly after the game. It'll be Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock in Oakland. The starting point will be 11th Street and Broadway. It will run along parts of 20th Street, Harrison Street, 19th, and Lakeside Drive before ending at Oak and 13th Streets. Now, there are no plans for an after-parade rally. The city expects more than 1 million people to show up. Fans can begin staking out their spots along the route as early as 6:30 Tuesday morning. Everyone is advised to use public transit.
Well, before the Warriors even became back-to-back champs, President Trump said he'd already decided he wouldn't be inviting them to the White House.
I didn't invite them. No, I didn't invite LeBron James. And I didn't invite Steph Curry. We're not going to invite either team. If they want to be here, it's the greatest place on earth. I'm here. If they don't want to be here, I don't want them.
Now, both LeBron James and Steph Curry said their teams had no interest in a visit, but the president did say he'd be happy to host the Washington Capitals, who just won the Stanley Cup on Thursday night. President Trump is expected to leave the Group of Seven summit in Quebec before it ends today. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been hosting the summit, a gathering of representatives from 7 of the world's largest industrial nations. Now, President Trump has been at odds with allies there over U.S. tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. He also called for Russia to be readmitted to the group, not an idea that was well received. Russia was expelled 4 years ago after it took over Ukraine's Crimea region. President Trump will leave this morning for Singapore, the site of his planned summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
Investigators have determined that PG&E is to blame for many of last fall's wildfires. They say downed power lines sparked a dozen separate fires, some of them deadly. KPIX 5's Andrea Borba has more on the potential legal implications for the San Francisco-based utility.
Late in the evening on October 8th, unprecedented winds whipped through the North Bay. From those winds came fires that leveled homes and ended lives. In a 2-page press release from CAL FIRE, the blame for 12 of those fires was leveled on equipment owned by Pacific Gas and Electric. For the Atlas fire that killed 6 people and destroyed 783 structures, CAL FIRE is blaming a limb that fell on a PG&E line. Same for the Nuns fire that merged into a super fire with the Patrick fire, killing 3. CAL FIRE says it was a tree limb on PG&E lines. Same with the Pocket fire. 8 of these cases have been turned over to local district attorneys for possible criminal prosecution.
Different areas maybe of clearance or type of equipment. So what we do is we gather all of that cause and origin information on state laws that we enforce and then submit that to the district attorney with the investigative report. And at that point, they'll determine what exactly they think the cause and what charges may be filed.
Frank Peter is an attorney for the people who plan on suing the utility giant.
In my opinion, the summary that I received is a wholesale indictment of the failures of PG&E's risk management practices across the board. And I don't say that lightly. But the report indicates that 8 out of these 12 fires all involve violations of state law dealing with tree trimming practices, the failure to maintain trees a sufficient distance from distribution lines so they do not pose a hazard.
In a statement, PG&E said this: "The loss of life, homes, and business in these extraordinary wildfires is simply heartbreaking, and we remain focused on helping communities recover and rebuild. We look forward to the opportunity to carefully review the CAL FIRE reports to understand the agency's perspectives. Based on the information that we have so far, we continue to believe our overall programs met our state's high standards."
PG&E would not give an on-camera interview yesterday. The Tubbs fire was the deadliest of those fires, killing 22 people and destroying the Coffee Park neighborhood in Santa Rosa. The cause of that fire is still undetermined.
Well, for the first time, we're hearing from the estranged wife of the man suspected of being the Golden State Killer. Sharon Huddle released this statement yesterday. It says in part, quote, "My thoughts and prayers are for the victims and their families. I ask the press to please respect my privacy and that of my children." Suspected Golden State Killer Joseph DAngelos is a former police officer, has been charged with 12 killings. He is scheduled to be back in court July 12th.
It's one thing after another at Facebook. Now comes word of another data scandal. We're learning the social media network shared personal user data with select companies. This was even after they claimed they prevented third-party developers from getting that data. Facebook has yet to comment on the Wall Street Journal report.
A high school student being held by ICE is now free after spending 6 months in an adult detention center in Bakersfield. Supporters offered a $25,000 check bond yesterday for 17-year-old Hamid of Afghanistan. It was presented to the Immigration and Customs Office in San Francisco. Hamid's attorney says he was wrongly held in an adult facility because of a faulty dental exam. 6 months ago, he turned himself into the U.S.-Mexico border, seeking asylum from the Taliban.
Violence against his family. His brother and father were killed in Afghanistan, and he also received death threats himself.
Since we're like the same age as him, we really support him, and this is why we're continuing with his case.
Hamid's case will be heard in federal immigration court in San Francisco. No timeline yet on when that will start.
Developers in San Jose are planning a massive new apartment complex near Santana Row. Plans were just submitted to the city for the nearly 3-acre site on Hatton Street, just a block from the signature shopping and entertainment hub. Here's the space now, a parking area used for shoppers at Santana Row. Developers say if approved, the new apartments would hold 300 units in 2 6-story buildings.
Well, work is underway to tear down a dilapidated pier near Half Moon Bay. Romeo Pier has served as a pillar point harbor since 1940s, but has been off limits since the late 1990s. The 700-foot-long pier served as a spot for fishermen to unload their catch before the newer Johnson Pier was built. Over the years, it held a bait shop and lodging for harbor managers.
It's got a lot of history. We're used to walking the beaches and seeing it. It is iconic for the coast side, and it's sad to see it go, but it needs to go.
Now, workers have started a pre-demolition process, which includes removing lead-based paint and asbestos. The actual teardown begins Monday after barges arrive to haul away the debris.
The 72nd annual Tony Awards are set for tomorrow in New York, celebrating the best of Broadway. Cast members from SpongeBob SquarePants put their best feet forward yesterday as they prepared for tomorrow's show.
This performance at the Tonys is going to get the word out to the whole country that this is what the show is like. It's not that cartoon.
Now, that show is tied for the most nominations with Mean Girls. Each has a dozen nominations. The Tonys can be seen tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock on KPIX 5.